guys. Sorry about that for being late. I got distracted. I was fiddling around with scenes and putting Tamara's art in and my own stuff, and I was arranging and doing things and not doing what I was supposed to be doing. And hello, hello. There we go. Let's not have. There we go. All right. Ha. Yes. And I'll get my chair in the right spot. Ha! Good to see you guys. How is everybody? I hope you are having a fine Sunday afternoon. Let's see. Making sure that I have the sound on right this time. The other day, I did something and I switched scenes and I had the scene muted and I didn't know that. So everything's fine. My phone is muted. Yay. That's good because it's doing the extra stuff, the extra power for me for, oh my gosh, the extra power boosting for Speedify so that I can make sure that I don't crash out. Because we've got a little wind coming up tonight. It's kind of still sunny, but it's a little stormy too. A little bit of wind. Speaking of wind, we were in Yakima yesterday for my grandniece's high school graduation party. And my goodness, they set up a tent and we had to take it down because it would have ended up in the hot fields, even though we had tent weights on it. We had about 15 pounds on each leg, and that's not enough. Not enough for 30-mile-an-hour winds. So, yeah, that didn't work. Anyway, good to have you here. Namaskar. Yes. Anyway, it is good to be here. And happy Pride Month. It is June 1st. And it is the beginning of Pride Month. And there was a lot of cool books that were out there to choose from. But I chose one that is about an artist that I've read about before, but, you know, it still is kind of wonderful of his art. So anyway, but tonight, yeah. Oh, what else has been going on with folks? I sat out in the studio today and I finished the second watering can, which is what I have for you guys today. So, but first off, let's say hi to Linda and Tamara. How are you doing? And yeah. Back. Oops, I spelled it wrong. I spelled wrong. Something wrong. There. And anyway, there we go. So yeah. I have only one book tonight, and it's a little longer book about this person. So but it's still a beautiful picture book, and I thought you guys would really get a kick out of it. And but first, it is Sunday, and it is show and tell night. So we have some show and tell to do right now. So, yes, show and tell, my great keyboard. Nope. Okay, we'll start here with mine. So this is the second watering can. This is, I spray painted it black. I left, and the other one, this part is black, and I left this white, and then the other one, this part is black, and I left it white here. So I made the top white, black there, and I did some vines going up this. I did a couple of ants crawling on the spout, that there. But this one is a little different. This is a more of a night theme, kind of. So I have a little bit like lightning bugs or like moths that might be out there. And I did a little different. The fence is not as big and it has a snail and some vines and things. And this one, it has the spider again. But in this one, it has an owl and a tree. So he's sitting in the owl. I got another lightning bug kind of type thing. But that's what this one is. So I finished. I have 2 now that I take them in tomorrow for the Two Waters Arts Alliance auction. And then I think I'm going to maybe paint some small ones. Wait, a snail? No slugs? Yeah, no slugs this time. I got a snail on them. I'm not doing slugs on these. That would be pretty funny. Jennifer gets to do the slugs, but this one was a little more challenging. First off, because I put a tree in it, and then that threw my perspective off. Because on the other one, I had the fence was like really tall, and so I could put bigger flowers in it. And this one, I goofed. I put the tree in, and then I had the fencing, and the fencing was smaller. And I put a big flower over here, and I had to paint over it. I did a lot of fixing on this one, that's for sure. But that's kind of what's cool about it. And I used outdoor acrylic and bleed-proof white on it. And I put a dragonfly on the bottom. So, yeah. That's that one. So that's my art. Really the total of my art this week, and yay. So next we go, oops, I gotta go back. That's not the one I wanted on first. Hang on, let me go back to the order I had it. All right, so here is Tamara's. And she says it's a work in progress. Paper collage 1 and 2 are the same canvas. And so let me put 1 and 2 up. Okay. Just playing with already cut collage pieces. I'm not sure about these. I will keep playing with some ideas. I really like these, Tamara. Boy, oh gosh, the figures in them get different. It's just how you just move things slightly. It's the same, almost same outfit. The first one is like a child in a womb. Yeah, good. Oh, that's true. Oh, just amazing, Tamara. I love to see your process. It is always so inspirational to see what your process is. So those were the first 2. And then in her email next, she said 4. So we're going to do them in her order. Atsushi is acrylic on brown paper, then mirrored for some interest. These are fun to do. Atsushi is Japanese and means pure kindness, honesty. Oh boy, don't tell Doc, because he speaks Japanese, and every time I mess up in pronunciation, I'm in trouble. Anyway, this is the one that she has, that Atsushi is acrylic on brown paper and is mirrored. I love it when you mirror things. I think they look so cool. They're just gorgeous. And the color combination here is brilliant. It's just, it does look like feathers, but then you have this, it's a really, that blue, the dominant color is that blue purplish kind of. And what you've done is by making it that tone of blue, it gives you the chance to use that kind of orange brown as a complementary, but still the green as a complementary, because green complements the purple, and then the orange complements the blue, and it's just brilliant. It's wonderful. I love it. And then her third one is The Land Down Under is a collage paper on watercolor scrap painting leftovers. So let's see this one. And there. I put a dash of dark blue in with the white. Oh, cool. Oh, land down under in collage. Oh, Tamara, so pretty. So pretty. And just the hint at the very bottom, the black on the deckled edge, that black, and on top, it in the bottom, how it has a little bit of extra width to it in some places makes it look more like the land. That it blends in with it. It's just gorgeous. That just gorgeous. Yes. Yay. So good. Okay, where am I? There we go. All right. There we go. Those are our two that I got in for today. You guys saw my little watering can, so I think I kind of like the white one with the black better. But this one, they're complementary. They're going to work well at the mustard. They're going to be hold flowers, thorns. I sprayed the inside to make them waterproof and did all that stuff, so they'll be fine. But the artist I chose, the book I chose tonight, is a story about Keith Haring. And, you guys know that I saw some of his pieces at the Phoenix Art Museum, and his work just is something else. But he was something else too. He, in short 31 years, made such an impact. And his philosophy was that art should be accessible for everyone. And it's just, I found this book, and I thought it's gonna be the only book, because it's a little longer book. It's almost twice as long, as a regular picture book. But it's still a picture book, and it still has the same kind of amount of text on a page, but the illustrations are done so well. It is by Matthew Burgess, and the pictures are by Josh Cochran. And when we get to the end, I'll tell you a little bit more about them. There's both of them have an artist statement at the end of the book. And well, maybe I'll tell you the artist statement first. Maybe I'll do that. Kind of like to do that sometimes. Whoa, get down there. Let's go. Author's note. He said, first off, let me tell you about them. So the author, Matthew Burgess, is a poet, professor, and children's book author. He teaches full-time at Brooklyn College and part-time as a teaching artist in New York City public schools. Keith Haring is one of his heroes. His first children's book, Enormous Smallness, a story of E.E. Cummings, is much beloved. I couldn't find that one. I was going to pull it too. And the illustrator, Josh Cochran, is originally from California and Taiwan. He's an illustrator and muralist living in Brooklyn. He's received various awards, including a Grammy nomination for album art. He's an avid traveler and marathon runner. He teaches at the School of Visual Arts, where Keith studied when he first arrived in New York City. So the illustrator says, in his illustrator's note, he says, "My first encounter with Keith Haring was as a student at Art Center College Ab Design. There's a bright, colorful abstract mural of his painted on the wall right across the hall from the library. I saw this wall almost every single day. Every time I stopped to admire the piece, I would have the same two thoughts. This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And how did he make it? The casual fat lines crisscrossing the vivid washes of color, even the accidental drips, are simultaneously effortless and brilliant." So his favorite way to draw is to start at the he says, "My favorite way to draw is to start at the upper left-hand corner of a page and slowly work my way out." So I want you to think about this when you see the illustrations for this book. His favorite way to draw is to start at the upper left-hand corner of the page and slowly work his way out. Sometimes I will draw an arm or a cheeseburger too big or too small, and this will affect how I draw the next thing. I'll have to compensate by squeezing something into a tiny space or rendering a bright purple cloud to balance the composition. Drawing as stream of consciousness poetry is something that I absorbed in large part from Keith. The way he would approach a wall or a canvas with no hesitation is a constant source of inspiration. Oh, it just is amazing that kind of art. And the author, he has a longer author's note, but he says, I wrote this book as an expression of gratitude for Keith's courage and creativity. Since his art may be even more accessible today than it was during his lifetime, you can see his line dancing across t-shirts, posters, skateboards, and walls. And I hope to offer is a glimpse of Keith as a human being, an immensely generous person who held childhood and children at the center of his life, and an extraordinary artist whose spirit still inspires, still delights, and still transmits his irrepressible energy of openness and freedom and joy. Oh, my goodness. So let me see here. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the book where I was. I was reading at the back of the book. That was all in the back of the book. All right, you guys. So let's see what. Yay. Work in progress. All right. So you ready for story time? I'm ready for story time. Almost. Oops. Drink of water. This book is called. Where am I? Let me get. There you go. Drawing on Walls, a story of Keith Haring by Matthew Burgess, pictures by Josh Cochran. Oh, the end papers are always so wonderful. A quote from Keith Haring, in a way, it's as important to communicate to one person, to one 10-year-old person that's growing up, as it is to try to make any big effect on the entire world. Keith Haring. And a quote from Timothy Leary. He's there painting on walls and running around the world, and kids flock to watch him do it. The intensity, the way he approaches a wall with total openness, is the way he approaches you. Keith is, in the best sense of the word, childlike, open. Drawing on Walls, a story of Keith Haring. Here is Keith Haring painting a mural with hundreds of children in Tama City, Japan. Keith draws the outlines, and the kids fill them in with their own designs. When Keith was a kid, he and his dad often drew together. They took turns making lines and watched as a balloon became an ice cream cone or a dog transformed into a fire-breathing dragon. Sometimes they even drew with their eyes closed. Keith drew all the time everywhere, but not on all the walls. But not on the walls, his mother would call, just as he was getting some big ideas. Keith was the oldest in his family, and gradually, as he grew, 3 sisters arrived. First Kay, then Karen, and finally, when Keith was 12, Kristen was born. They lived in Kutztown, a small town in Pennsylvania. Keith loved being a big brother. In the summer, he organized games and carnival contests in the backyard, and he would invite the entire neighborhood. He also formed clubs with secret passwords and made little houses where friends would play. When Kristen was old enough to hold a crayon, Keith invented a game like one his dad had taught him. Each would draw on a sheet of paper, and when someone said stop, they would swap sheets and continue drawing. Keith also painted Kristen's hands and pressed them on paper to make prints. Look, a mobile. Keith's best friend, Kermit, loved making things too. At school, they were known as the artists. Eager to have a studio all their own, they cleared some space in Kermit's aunt's garage. Keith loved drawing anything with a twisting, turning line that traveled through and around, up and down, in and out again. When Keith was 16, he began to feel restless in Kutztown. That summer, he caught a bus to Ocean City, New Jersey, where he lived a block from the beach with kids from Pittsburgh and New York City. Keith washed dishes to pay his way, and in his free time, he drew. Sometimes he would stay up all night and watch the sunrise. After high school, Keith moved to Pittsburgh to study commercial art, but it wasn't a good fit. He wanted to be spontaneous and free, following his line to see where it would lead. On a trip home for Christmas, Keith stumbled upon The Art Spirit by Robert Henry. After a few sentences, he felt as if the book was speaking directly to him, like a friend. Do whatever you do intensely. The artist leaves the crowd and goes pioneering. So Keith left school, took several jobs, and saved enough money to hitchhike across the country. He was searching for his next big step, and he took the art spirit with him. When Keith returned to Pittsburgh, he spent hours in the library reading about artists he admired. He also saw an exhibition of enormous paintings by Pierre Alchinsky. Keith was blown away. Inspired, Keith now knew what he had to do to find the intensity and freedom that he desired. New York City. Keith arrived in New York City and enrolled at the School of Visual Arts. He was 20 years old. One day, he found rolls of paper that someone had tossed into the gutter. He unrolled them in the studio at school and began making bigger and bigger paintings. Keith especially liked painting on the floor by the open door where the sunlight poured in. People passing on the street would stop to watch him or talk with him about what he was making. Keith loved it. He didn't believe that some people understand art while others don't, or that art should be hidden away in galleries, museums, and private collections. Keith wanted to communicate with as many people as possible. The public has a right to art. Art is for everybody. The East Village was Keith. With his friends, he formed Club 57, a local hangout, in the basement of a church on St. Mark's Place. A few years later, when Keith was 23, he fell in love with a DJ named Juan Dubois. Keith listened to Juan's music while he drew, and Juan cooked big meals in their tiny kitchen. Together, they were happy. Keith wasn't earning money from his paintings yet, so he worked as a bicycle messenger, a sandwich maker on 7th Avenue, a bartender at the Mud Club, and an art assistant in a Soho gallery. He even got a job picking wildflowers in New Jersey. But his favorite job ever was drawing with children at a daycare center in Brooklyn. There is nothing that makes me happier than making a child smile. With his artist friend, Fab Five Freddy, Keith walked through Alphabet City, admiring all of the graffiti. He loved the colors, the size, the fluid lines, and the blossoming of art on the streets where people could see and enjoy it. One night while strolling down King Street in the West Village, Keith heard the thump and beat of music and discovered Paradise Garage. He was mesmerized by the dancers spinning on their heads and doing the electric boogie as disco and hip-hop rocked the room. For Keith, drawing and painting were like dancing. He called it mind-to-hand flow. One day, in the subway, Keith noticed blank panels where advertisements used to be. Suddenly, he zipped up the street, bought a box of white chalk, dashed back downstairs, and began drawing on the walls. People paused as they rushed from here to there. For Keith, this was what art was all about, the moment when people see it and respond. Maybe it makes them smile. Maybe it makes them think. Maybe it inspires them to draw, or dance, or write, or sing. When Keith was 24, he was offered a major one-man show at the Tony Safrazi Gallery in Soho. The opening was packed with artists, musicians, celebrities, and friends, and Keith's family came all the way from Kutztown to celebrate. Keith's life as an artist was taking off. But no matter how busy he became or where in the world he went, he always made time for children. Keith understood kids, and they understood him. There was an unspoken bond between them. And since children often asked him to draw on their t-shirts, skateboards, and jeans, he always kept a black marker handy. The kid from Kutztown, who had longed to draw on the walls, was now receiving invitations to paint murals all over the world. He was invited to West Germany to paint a stretch of the Berlin Wall, which had been built to divide people, even family and friends, and keep them apart. Keith believed in the unity of all human beings, so he painted a long chain of interconnected figures. He also painted a wall with 500 high school students in Chicago, Illinois. It was his longest mural ever at 488 feet, and it took 5 days to complete. To honor him, the then Mayor Daley declared it Keith Haring Week. After watching Keith work, a kid came up to him and said, "I can tell by the way you paint that you really love life." And Keith did love life. Every single day, no matter what difficulties came his way. Even when he learned that he had a serious illness called AIDS, Keith didn't stop making art and sharing his gifts with the world. He was overwhelmed by sadness at first, but then he decided that he would live each day fully as if it were his last. I appreciate everything that has happened, especially the gift of life I was given that has created a silent bond between me and children. Children can sense this thing in me. One morning, while listening to musicians on a New York City street, Keith was recognized in the crowd by a father and son from Italy. Keith invited them to his studio. In return, they invited him to paint a mural and have an exhibition. In June 1989, Keith arrived in Pisa to paint a wall on the Church of Sant'Antonio. The friars who lived there welcomed him to dinner inside their monastery. As word spread, people came from all over Europe to meet Keith and watch him work. A massive crowd waited for Keith to make his final mark. And when he did, everyone burst into wild cheering and applause. The city threw a huge party with music and dancing in the streets. Kids, grandparents, soldiers, friars, everyone celebrated Keith's masterpiece. Without question, he said, Pisa is one of the highlights of my entire career. From the time he was 4 years old, drawing with his dad at the kitchen table, until the day he died at 31, Keith remained spontaneous and free, following his line wherever it would lead. And though his life ended too soon, Keith's line is still with us. And it goes on forever. Oh my goodness. A biographical note. Keith Haring was born on May 4th, 1958 in Reading, Pennsylvania. Raised in the nearby Kutztown, Keith discovered his love of drawing when he was a kid and dreamed of becoming an artist when he grew up. He graduated from high school in 1976, and after 2 semesters at the Ivy School of Professional Art in Pittsburgh, Keith moved to New York City. Upon his arrival in 78, Keith entered into a period of intense creative activity inspired in part by the graffiti that covered the subway cars and spread across the walls and storefronts, uptown and down. Fueled by his belief that art is for everybody, Keith made his first chalk subway drawings in 1980 at the age of 22. In the decade that followed, Keith became one of the most beloved and recognizable artists of his time. He collaborated with other visual artists, dancers, and musicians, including Andy Warhol, William Burroughs, Bill T. Jones, Madonna, Yoko Ono, and Grace Jones. He also committed himself to the fight for social justice, contributing his artwork to causes such as literacy, nuclear disarmament, and AIDS awareness and advocacy. An exuberant creator, Keith traveled all over the world, sharing his art, ultimately painting more than 50 public works in hospitals, orphanages, daycare centers, and charities. Keith died on February 16, 1990, at the age of 31. His generosity is still felt to this day. Hi, Randall. Hey, nice to have you here, my friend. Randall is one of the moderators on my friend Luis's Mr. Camera Junkies channel. Good to have you here. And the author says in his note, I've loved Keith's art since I was 14 years old. I remember staring at his cover of A Very Special Christmas and wondering who Keith Haring it might be. His style immediately drew me in and offered a glimpse of a world beyond my childhood in suburban Southern California. For those of us who grew up before the internet became ubiquitous, a bright fragment from the outer world could feel like an important discovery and a call. Eventually, like Keith, I moved to New York City and felt a similar surge of creative inspiration. Then in 2012, I saw the magnificent Haring retrospective at the Brooklyn Museum. Standing in those galleries, you could feel Keith's energy pulsing through his work like an electric current or a disco tune. In the gift shop, I picked up a copy of the journals and turned to the following passage. Children know something that most people have forgotten. Children possess a fascination with their everyday existence that is very special and would be very helpful to adults if they could learn to understand and respect it. I had been teaching poetry in New York City public schools for over a decade, and at this point, and Keith's words rang deep and true. In the same entry dated July 7th, 1986, Keith wrote, "It is only now that I realize the importance of a biography. I mean, I always have realized that I enjoy to read, and I have learned so many things from the biographies of artists whom I admire. It is probably my main source of education." Reading this passage, the path appeared before me to share Keith's story with young readers. I met some skeptical responses as I began to share the idea on Keith's homosexuality and illness. Fortunately, my publisher, Claudia Bedrick, and I saw eye to eye about the need for greater openness in children's books. What about kids who are dealing with serious illnesses? What about reaching kids who would draw strength and encouragement from Keith's heroic example? 30 years ago, Keith was interviewed by Rolling Stone for a cover story. It was published in August of 1989, just 2 months after he painted the mural in Pisa and 5 months before his death. Keith speaks with whether he would continue to receive invitations to work with kids after publicly revealing his diagnosis of AIDS. Keith expressed doubts, but insisted in honesty nonetheless. He was deeply concerned about kids growing up now. It gives, quote, "It gives so much fuel to the people who are telling you that it's wrong to be who you are. There are so few people who are good, openly gay role models or just good people who are respected, who are open about their sexuality. Now there has to be openness about all these issues." End quote. Well, much progress has been made since 1989, thanks in large part to people like Keith who have dared to be boldly, visibly themselves. There is still a long way to go, especially when discrimination and violence against the LGBTQ plus people persist, both at home and around the world. I wrote this book as an expression of gratitude for Keith's courage and creativity, since his art may be even more accessible today than it was during his lifetime. You can see his line dancing across t-shirts, posters, skateboards, and walls. What I hope to offer is a glimpse of Keith as a human being, an immensely generous person who held childhood and children at the center of his life. An extraordinary artist whose spirit still inspires, still delights, still transmits his irrepressible energy of openness, freedom, and joy. Wow, what a book. What a book. So, as you guys know, when I was down the second time I went to Phoenix in April, when Bob and I both went, and we went to the Phoenix Art Museum, there's a Keith Haring exhibit there. They have one of his pyramid installations there and some of the things, because he worked with the Art Institute in Tucson and in the Phoenix Art Museum, and he was actually working on an exhibit that was active. They had the posters done, everything ready to go. And he didn't stop working. And it was scheduled to open like a month after he died. But they have all the letters of agreement and they have them all laid out on what he was doing and the things he was working on and the posters there that they had set out, the publicity poster, plus the things he had done with kids and the list of activities that they had scheduled. When he did something like that, he had like open times that he did art classes with kids for like $10 or $5 or free if they couldn't afford it. It was astounding to see what he did. And, you know, his artwork is so inspiring and it's so much fun. And I did, I don't know what, 2 or 3 Keith Haring inspired slugs for the slug hunt. And I didn't do, these are not the, but that kind of line work and stuff is partially what, helped inspire this stuff that I did. I mean, it's not the same kind of thing, but it's that inspiration of just what you can do with line and oh my gosh, and just everything. And it's art is for everyone. Yay. Yeah, the Josh Cochran did an amazing job with creating that. And to think that the way he draws himself is he starts in that upper left-hand corner and works across the page. That's hard for me to conceive of how that works because, oh yeah. So somebody said they had the book. I have a book from caves to canvas. He did the cover for. Oh, that would be cool to see. I didn't pick up any books on Haring when I was down there. Next time I go down and we'll go back to the museum, maybe I might. We'll see. Anyway, that was a longer book for tonight, and it was the only one I was going to read because it was my kickoff celebration of Pride Month and celebration of art, story and art, and Keith Haring's work and the significance that he has, not only for his artistic contribution, but his emphasis on kids. that focal point that he had, that art should be accessible for all, but also he always made time for the kids. And that's just, yeah, I think that childlike that we if we could, like he said, what was it, the quote he said that about he thought that what was that quote about that children know something that most people have forgotten. Children possess a fascination with their everyday existence that is very special and should be very helpful to adults if they could learn, and would be very helpful to adults if they could learn to understand and respect it. Words from Keith Haring. Oh my gosh, words of wisdom. Yes. Thank you. That's so good. I love that. And with that, I think I'm going to call it a night. You guys have been here. These books, I know, I love these. Picture books, they're just so fun. So much fun. And I will be back on Thursday. I wasn't sure whether I was heading to Joiin again, but I'm not as of right now. But I do have my bag packed in case I need to head down there. But tomorrow, Bob's heading into Seattle, and I'm taking my watering cans up to the mustard seed to be ready to go in the auction as centerpieces. Oh, craziness. And tomorrow's tarts, so I get to do some art too. But we'll be back Thursday with more story and art. We'll actually I don't know what I'm gonna. I have a couple books. I know it's a little late for it about Memorial Day, and a couple other, but we'll see what shows up in my thought process. So everybody, thanks so much for being here, for Story and Art, for showings. Tamara, thanks for always sending in beautiful things. And Linda, Randall, if you don't know Randall, on Sunday we have show and tell night. So you are welcome to send any kind of creative piece you might be working on, whether it's an art, drawing, collage, painting, a photograph, something like that you've been working on. Oh, anything, you can send it to me. You can take a picture, send it to my email, and then we have show and tell. Because, retired school teacher has to have show and tell. And we share some of the work that we're doing on. Tamara is in Australia, and she sends gorgeous stuff from all, let's see, where is it? Where is Tamara? Like tonight, that's pretty amazing, Tamara. But you know what? Tamara is kind of, she's our inspiration piece. She's our inspiration artist. And it's just wonderful to know that this is a space where if you want to express anything, any kind of artwork and whether it's a simple little flower that you're working on, or something that you doodled for your granddaughter's preschool party so they could color, or something else that you're just getting started on and want some input on, send it in. We'll have it for show and tell. But show and tell and story time. But Thursdays, straight story time. So everybody, I'll be back on Thursday with stories for you. So until next time, folks, keep looking. Hang on. Yep. Keep looking for the beauty hidden in plain sight. It's all around you, but the first place you'll find it is when you go look in your mirror. And I'll see you next time.
In the heat of the night, we could get lost in all the lights and sounds. Feeling alright, we won't go home, we will just stay here downtown. There's not just stars on the boulevard, they're in the light in your eyes. Oh, we don't need no black cards, I just need you by my side. We could be shameless.